The American values in the life of George Washington. For the Americans, there are several values that motivate their behaviors. We can select as a minimum 13 values to try to understand these actions and finally, the style of American life. Now, we are going to understand better two of those values thanks to one famous and important character for the Americans. Actually, the United States has had many presidents, but just one can be called father of the country. George Washington is known as the first president of the United States. He was born in colonial Virginia, where he became surveyor, and after years he came back to lead the Virginia militia and the French and Indian War. After that, he settled down and got married with Martha Custis. He became a landowner and he was elected to the legislature of Virginia. Because of the unfair treatment by the British rulers, George and his fellow landers began to argue and fight for their right. So he was elected as General of the Continental Army in the American Revolution. He guided their compatriots to the victory and they achieved the independence of the United States, and he was elected as a president during 2 terms. In this way, George Washington represents change and future orientation values. We can consider George Washington as a symbol of the change value. The change is strongly linked to the idea of development and progress for the American, and is not considered as disruptive like another cultures which dominates the idea of stability and tradition. The action of George Washington implied and represented American value change because he was looking for improve the situation of the American compatriots against the British government. For example, he was the general of the Continental Army during the many battles against the British Army, and we know their principal victories: the crossing of Delaware River on Christmas and the final victory at Yorktown. Then, the success of the revolution brought to the American independence and with this, the dreams about the development and the progress of their people. As we have seen, George Washington demonstrates the consequence of the hard work and the responsibility as best you can, because we can see the great accomplishment achieved by the Americans during his beginning as a state. Also, George Washington was an inspiration for the future motivation value. The Americans have traditionally been hopeful that the future will bring even greater happiness and success. In this way, the efforts of George Washington as a president were very valuable to the creation of a solid government in the United States. As a president, his work established several bases to the political function of the state. For example, he formed the first elements of the president's cabinet, Secretary of State and Secretary of Treasury. So, he guides the formation of the roles and traditions of the actual government. The actions of President have brought a better future for the American because thanks to the success of the hopeful plans and projects begun that time, the United States has conserved its autonomy and authority until today. Then, we can see the American values reflect the character of George Washington, their action as a revolutionary leading many battles, and the victories that brought independence to their compatriots. In addition, their actions are present to create the basis for the function of the state to help in the building of the actual government. So, change and future orientation values are represented in the most valued actions in the life of George Washington.